Sunshine Station is a station in Melbourne's west. Sunshine has been an interchange station since it opened in 1885 as Braybrook Junction, renamed Sunshine in 1907. It served the Bendigo and Ballarat lines. It originally had 3 platforms, but a fourth was added for the standard gauge line up to Sydney. Trains went further than Bendigo and Ballarat though, with the Ballarat line going to Mildura, Adelaide and Hamilton, while the Bendigo line went to several places in the Mallee region, like Robin Vale, Youngera, Poomboon and Echuca, with service continuing out of the state to Balranald and Deniliquin. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just call them the Ballarat and Bendigo lines. The electric Sunbury line also runs through Sunshine, boosting service even further. Sunshine was a transport super hub, but it was a transport super hub that was aging very rapidly, and in 2014 the regional rail link was finished, so a massive rebuild was underway for Sunshine. The new rebuild was to have 4 platforms but no standard gauge platform. Platforms 1 and 2 are the Sunbury line platforms, with platform 1 being the up platform and platform 2 being the down platform. Platforms 3 and 4 are the unelectrified regional platforms. After the regional rail link opened, Geelong line trains were diverted from the South West Main Line through Newport and Werribee to run through Deer Park and Sunshine, increasing frequency at Sunshine even more. The inverse of this is that Bendigo line trains now run express through Sunshine, which is a wasted opportunity to have trains running express through the rebuilt station, and it also takes away the opportunity of a transfer from the Ballarat or Geelong lines to the Bendigo line. The timetable is not very forgiving, so a connection might be missed because there was only one place to interchange, Footscray. Other than that, Sunshine is pretty good for a station, receiving a new concourse that's staffed with customer service, a snack bar and decently sized waiting room that perfectly overlooks platforms 1 and 2 in the down direction. There's also a bunch of crossovers around the station. To the left, the Bendigo line joins the Sunbury line, but the flat junction has problems. Up regional trains have to cross over the down suburban track, making an unnecessary conflict. There's also 2 crossovers on each side, allowing trains to terminate if there's a disruption. Regional trains parallel suburban trains all the way to the city, but there are no crossovers closer to the city, so the last place to divert is at Sunshine. Some of these crossovers are for sidings and goods lines towards the city. There's also a goods line to Newport, but no passenger trains run there. With the exception of the Bendigo line, regional trains to Ballarat and Geelong branch off the Bendigo line and run west to Ardea and beyond to Ballarat and Geelong. Sunshine also has a decent bus interchange with 14 routes including the 903, which goes all the way out to Mordialloc. Sunshine is pretty good now, compared to some other stations that the government deems transport super hubs, like Broady, Clayton and Cheltenham. But Sunshine has a bright future planned for it. There are several projects that will increase the importance of Sunshine, and the regional rail link is the first. The Sunshine got a full rebuild for it, but it's not the only major upgrade. The airport rail link has been talked about for a long time, and construction has started. The airport line will branch off the Sunbury line at Sunshine, which will have a shiny flying junction, which is actually pretty uncommon in Melbourne. Because the legacy network is pretty much all we have, Sunshine will become an interchange station for suburban trains, and regional passengers will literally have a cross-platform transfer from an up-regional train to a down-airport train. But coming back from the airport will not be a cross-platform transfer and will involve going up the concourse. The airport rail link could be the last major upgrade for the station. Still better than most Melbourne stations, but there will be more for the station. The Western Rail Plan is a project that will involve the electrification of the Ballarat line up to Melton and the Geelong line up to Wyndham Vale, turning the Wyndham Vale and Melton lines into electric suburban lines. These lines will converge with the Sunbury and Airport lines at Sunshine, turning the regional-only platforms 3 and 4 into electric suburban platforms. The next project is happening now, called the Regional Rail Revival. The project is centred around improving transport for regional areas, though most of this improvement is for the Geelong line only. The project is meant to improve the regional network, even though they're still bombing it with more and more velocity trains. Link in the description to my other video about fleets. Regional Rail Revival will add another platform to Sunshine, possibly to streamline terminating moves that couldn't otherwise be done. The last project that will affect Sunshine in a biggest way of them all is the Suburban Rail Loop. There will be a 90-kilometre underground railway from Werribee to Cheltenham via the airport, or then the rest of the middle suburbs. The project dwarfs Sydney Metro and will create massive centres for transit-oriented development across the middle suburbs like Broadie, Reservoir, Clayton, and of course Sunshine. It's shocking how little development there is in Sunshine. Suburban Rail Loop will have platforms under the main station, allowing there to technically be two connections to the airport. Obviously, the airport rail link will be favoured for people getting there from the city, and the Suburban Rail Loop will be better for people getting to local suburban centres to the airport fast. This is an approximation of what the track layout could look like if they build all these projects, however unlikely it could be. The main station has 6 platforms. Platform 1 isn't technically part of any proposals, but there is evidence of it might possibly happening in the future, as there's a broad gauge siding near it. The new Platform 1 could streamline terminating moves in the up and down direction, which could either be for disruptions or a potential peak time run from Sunshine to Westall through the Metro Tunnel, but the Metro Tunnel is the topic for another video. With all 3 platforms being technically fully bidirectional, terminating is made really easy. If one of the platforms is out of action, the other 2 can still be used, and a similar arrangement exists with platforms 4, 5 and 6, but with fewer crossovers and overall less flexibility and more conflict. Now for the part that should have been at the start: which services operate on which platforms. Platform 1 would be an up track, meaning that trains come in from Sunbury in the airport, stop at Platform 1 and then head through the Metro Tunnel to the city and southeast. Platform 2 will be used bidirectionally, so trains could come from the airport and Sunbury and then run through the city and southeast, but trains from the city and southeast can also run into Sunshine and then to Sunbury and the airport. And Platform 3 will be used also for the trains from the city and southeast to run into Sunshine then to Sunbury and the airport, called a down track. A similar arrangement exists with the Melton and Wyndham Vale lines with platforms 4, 5 and 6, but these still divert and run out through to Ardea. There are several plans for quadruplication to both Melton and Wyndham Vale, but for the sake of separating the Ballarat and Geelong lines from electric suburban trains, but being Melbourne, most good things don't happen, and a compromise was made for this diagram, with a 3-track corridor from Deer Park to Sunshine, because the regional rail link intermediate stations on the Ballarat line, Deer Park with its level crossing removed, and the regional rail link are pretty hostile to the idea of track expansion, so a 3-track corridor was made as the compromise. Regional trains would also use platforms 4, 5 and 6 as advertised so much on the Victorian Big Build website. That's pretty much all there is to say. Sunshine is good, but it could be better. It's like Chatswood now, but it could be like Parramatta. I might cover Chatswood or Parramatta in another video, but for now I'll stick to Victorian content. Being brutally honest with the state of the current network now, it's actually really lacking. It's too radial, service is too infrequent, and there's virtually no transit-oriented development in Melbourne yet. Sunshine barely scratches the surface of what transit-oriented development can look like up in Sydney. Places like Footscray and South Yarra have decent transit-oriented development, but it's too close to the city to be properly suburban. But there's still high hopes to be had for Sunshine in Melbourne for that matter. But the problem is that there's too much planning and politics and not enough construction starting. One final thing, there is one lot in that I didn't talk about as much, and that's the Suburban Rail Loop. I already mentioned it, but I'll go into it in greater detail in another video. But I'll leave it at that for now. See you in the next one.